We bought that property in February. In February. And we've only been there for 2 months. For 2 months. For 2 months. All the hard work, all the sleepless nights, everything.
The recent happening in Lagos right now is the demolition of properties belonging to citizens. The Lagos state government is justifying this demolition by saying that these buildings block the right of ways and many canals in Lagos state. We all know that Lagos state is one of the flooded prone state in Nigeria. Hence, the government justified a constant demolition as a measure to prevent Lagos state from being submerged by flood during the raining season. However, the one that caused an uproar was a demolition that happened in the Mende Villa estate. The government has said that most of the buildings not blocking the canal or the right of way were demolished because it doesn't have building permit. But the developers produced the building permit of the buildings authorized by the Lagos state government more than 15 years ago. The Lagos state government failed to accept responsibility that former administration before them approved these buildings. They went ahead to revoke the approval without accepting responsibility or paying any sort of compensation to the developers or owners of this villa. It's shocking why the Lagos state government could embark on the demolition of properties built by Nigerians with their hard-earned money without compensation at this time when the economy is biting hard on the people. People are suffering in this country. The economy is hard. Tinubu regime has made the economy to be so stiff on the people. Now, to make the matter worse, most of the people whose properties are being demolished, these are retirees who use their last earning to provide shelter for themselves. They have nowhere else to go after pouring their entire saving in building these homes. Today, they've been rendered homeless by the same government that cannot provide shelter for them. I mean, how many houses does the Lagos state government provide for the people living in Lagos? All these have led to people advising Nigerians not to invest in Lagos. They are telling Nigerians to go and invest in Lagos at their own risk. Even Yemi Alade, the entertainer, she complained bitterly about this constant demolition of people's properties. A lot of persons may not really understand what is going on in Lagos. Lagos has become an unsafe haven for investors. It's shocking how the government has been allowed to go away with this level of rascality, where Gbadebo Vivour, the gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party in the last Lagos state election, have thrown a full glimpse of what is happening in Lagos. He revealed deep secret of land grabbing going on in Lagos state. Of course, what is happening in Lagos state is not just about destroying the building that is blocking the right of way or blocking the canal, or because we don't want Lagos state to be submerged by the flood, but there is something going on in Lagos. And Gbadebo Vivour revealed this in a space that was held on Twitter by Sedem. So I want you to take a listen to him as he exposed what is really happening in Lagos.
I love Lagos dearly, and I don't want to see Lagos become like Warrior Delta State. If you know the history of what happened when people started being hostile to investors and people that came from outside that were developing Delta State, Warri, everybody just pulled back. Right, and they've been struggling since. So I don't want to see that happen in Lagos. But also, I don't even think it's something that you need to campaign. Even me, if I was going to buy a flat for investment or buy a house for investment, I've calmed down. No, I'd rather hold on to my money, because you are still a government that is complicit. The government is complicit in a house being built that they call illegal, and then they come and destroy that building without any consequences on their own complicity. They're not even acknowledging that they are part of the criminal enterprise if they are calling this building illegal, right? And that is a very big problem for me. You know, it was in the news that they're talking about how most of the buildings in Bejuleki don't have permits. I'm talking about an entire estate. So if you've built a building before, you'll know that I published all the things that you need to even get planning permission. Then the process, right? For your foundation, the government sends representatives to your site. At decking, they send representatives to your site to check and make sure that you are following planning permission. So if a building was able to get to roof level, that means it was done with the approval of the government or their representatives. So they were either negligent, or they were corrupt, or they gave out illegal planning permissions, but they were part and parcel of that process. So for me, I feel that right now in Lagos, this is the time to be wary about investing in buildings, because first of all, there is no grand plan that is public knowledge. Tomorrow, they're talking about waterways and canals flowing, right? And they're destroying buildings that they claim are on the right of way. Then the very next day, which was today or 2 days ago, I saw that Lagos City is talking about how they're going to sandfill several more islands, right? Anytime an island or sandfilling happens, water is displaced that starts to flood indigenous communities and communities all across the state, because water must go somewhere. So what is the environmental impact assessment that has been done? What solutions have been done to the Okwe Alpha communities or even parts of Ikorodu that are flooding because of Eko Atlantic, right? You have a situation where most of this sand filling that happens, because it's such an expensive process, the buildings that are on there really are for the wealthy and people that can afford to pay those kind of high rents, which are the minority of Lagos, right? Because you find that, I was saying today, that 75 to 80% of Lagosians don't earn up to 1.2 million naira in a year. So if the government is actually very serious about housing, right, then they should do targeted housing that is financially accessible to the majority of people that live in Lagos. It's not just your friend wants to sandfill, he knows the governor, so he is okay for him to sandfill. You don't care that Ilu is stopping the drainage of water coming out of Lagos Island, right? But then you're going to go and destroy somebody's house who the fence, is parallel to a lagoon or a right of way that you should have channeled over 20 years ago, but you're just trying to get around to channeling now, right? So, but when it comes down to the actual act of the demolition, I feel that more than anything, if the government can acknowledge that it is complicit in this problem, then their approach must be different. Their approach must be one that says, okay, we've messed up, we know we've messed up, but this thing we're trying to do is in the larger interest of our vision for Lagos, which is create a flood-free or flood-resistant state. Okay, we acknowledge that. We acknowledge that we're part and parcel of this building getting up to the roof, either directly or indirectly. We acknowledge that. So, the way we engage you is going to be one, a robust transition system, whether it's having housing units or apartments that people can stay in for a couple of months before they get on their feet again, having a psychologist and a whole medical personnel that come to talk you through this and literally hold your hand through this process, because there are people that have collapsed, there are people that have gotten strokes. I've heard so many stories. I've met people that told me, my neighbor has died though because of this thing. They literally saw their entire life savings just go down in a country where there is no mortgage, in a country where there is no insurance, in a country where you have to gather all this money to pay for this house. Where are they going to do that from again? And Nigerians have this notion that you must own your house. Like you have not really made it in life if you are not the owner of your house. So they go to great lengths to be able to achieve that. You have a lot of these people that have retired. So where are they going to start from again to start picking themselves up? So there must be that robust psychological health part of it that's going to monitor you, make sure, they walk you through this and check on you, right? And then you also come with like a moving van. people that will help them pack out of the building. So you create a process that shows that, I recognize your distress. I recognize that this thing is really messed up for you. So because we have designed this thing to minimize the amount of damage and destruction we need to do, and we designed it efficiently, let us now transition you guys, at least in 3 months' time. Let's see how we can get you back on your feet, and also talk about compensation as well, right? So I feel that it has to be a lot more humane, even as little things as having, there are many buildings that are, even public buildings that are not in use. There is no harm if the government converted temporarily to storage spaces. Because as you are moving people out, a lot of people don't have places to put their things. They literally are starting afresh again. So is there a temporary place where they can keep their things that's owned by the government, because the government recognizes that they have a responsibility to these people, right? Because whether you like it or not, you have instances where the government has been collecting ground rent and tenement rent from these people, land use charge. And you find that these people also paid some government or some official for, whether it's a global COO, a deed of assignment, some kind of documentation. Nobody goes to go and build a whole house in this Lagos state, right? Without any form of paperwork, whether they were scammed, whether somebody scammed them. That also should be for the government to reflect on the process of planning approvals, on process of oversight, on the entire process of getting the built environment to fit with their own plan. And that plan must be made public. It's not okay for you to say, oh, my friends can sand fill in this area, or government can sand fill in this area, or government can rent property in buildings that are directly sitting on a canal and contravening the plan. But then you might not be able to fight the government. You are the one that your house is going to be destroyed. That's not okay. And the government must take that responsibility and act with a lot more empathy. I think that's my position on the demolitions that happen in Lagos State.